Note, I wrote this chilling story in September of 2007 for English 2042, which I took at Laramie County Community College. Sarah Guerin taught the class. I have edited it slightly from its 2007 version. Also, this paints a disturbing scene, 2/3 Bible, 1/3 science fiction, and 100% in the manner of Edgar Allan Poe. Listener discretion is advised. Smiley says, decision time. Proudly wearing his loyal midnight blue suit, the usher placed his marked hand firmly, though not belligerently, on my shoulder. He guided me down the mildly sloping steps to an open seat near the front of the auditorium. I kept my eyes glued to the delicate pattern weaved into the brown and blue carpet on the floor. Stopping, he pointed at an empty wooden bucket seat. I sat. A number was sewn into the breast of my canary yellow suit of the condemned. The usher punched the number into the small computer device he carried and awaited a confirmation code. In a few seconds, his screen beeped a squawk of government approval. And what would be one of my final dissonant thoughts, I wished for a time before the great change, a time before Smiley came with his resplendent lies, damning proclamations, and ultimatums. But the good book had shown me that this was the only way, tragic as it currently was. The usher, a distinguished-looking gentleman in his 6th decade, stared at me sadly through his spectacles and said, "It's a damn shame. You remind me of my son." Knowing there was nothing I could do for the man who had already embraced Smiley's sing-song propaganda and been marked approved for commerce, I stared up at him from my seat. The harsh glare of the overhead lights on the balding dome of his head was shaded little by the wisps of gray hairs. All I could say to he who might have been my father was, "You were blinded, sir." With that, he turned and walked back up the stairs and out the big oak double doors to collect his next charge from the guarded, shackled lines of resolute yet worried people waiting out in the hall. My back faced the stage because I wasn't ready to behold the spectacle. I watched the usher go, paradoxically grieving, yet rejoicing for whoever he pulled in next. Of the audience, some spoke quiet affirmations to overwhelmed people seated nearby. Many hearts cried out, "Abba, Father." Most had visions of Revelation 20, 4-6, dancing in their heads. This motley crowd was comprised of strangers united in purpose. We were all forced to watch one last propaganda video between our arrests and the remanding to this center. The government narrator stoically reported that statistically only 5% of the holdouts would choose deliverance to Smiley at this, the pressing penultimate opportunity. Supreme Leader, and some, including himself, would say God. Smiley would be informed of the names of any delivered at this late stage in the game. He would bestow the great honor of announcing their names to the world feed from his seat on the throne. No medications were allowed after our arrest, but the movement of people in this room was somber and narcotic. Morosely, I imagined the marvelous beauty of this elegant high school auditorium in Mashaka might have sparked my creative mind. I had been an artist before the great change. Alas, no longer. The arched ceiling's apex towered 50 feet overhead. Once gentle light bulbs recessed into the ceiling had been replaced with the harsh lighting Smiley's Defiance Elimination Force mandated for all centers, with hopes that some people might still be saved. The walls were painted a mellow off-white, and artful masonry created a pleasingly jagged surface to the walls. This jumble of bricks jutting out at various angles was done to mute echoes as much as for aesthetics. Still refusing to look up at the stage that once held teenage actors performing as Romeo, Juliet, and ironically, figures from the Bible, I scanned the 500 seats on their gentle slope down toward me. Composed of rustic wood and old metal, they recalled 1920s movie theaters. A wide aisle bisected the middle of the room. The platform in the back, where lighting and sound technicians used to work, stood unnecessary for the auditorium's current mission. As I examined distant details in the back of the room, a warm hand gently grasped my forearm that was half on the armrest. The 100 or so people behind me grew strangely hushed and still. I heard the distinctive slice of metal hurtling through air. Whoosh! Thud! As this happened, the woman next to me gasped softly, an involuntary contraction of her hand digging her fingernails into my forearm, drawing blood. So close to the stage, I felt a big warm drop splat on the back of my neck and roll under the collar of my yellow suit. Without seeing, it became real. I whirled to face the front and took in the purple curtains pulled wide over the raised wood stage. From the body on the bench, dual streams of blood spurted one last feeble time out of the stump of the neck. That dropped to a dribble now that the heart stopped. The executioner had already turned from his latest victim and was mindlessly wiping blood off his enormous medieval sword with a cloth. He exchanged some words with a big man in a blue suit on the stage. Both chuckled. The swordman accepted a mug from an assistant and took a gulp of his coffee. Just another day at the office. One assistant yanked the head up off the floor by its long black hair and carried it stage left, while another unceremoniously rolled the body onto a gurney and wheeled it off stage. I couldn't help but notice the shocked look on that face before it was marched off the stage. The woman's physical eyes would soon return to dust, though she gazed upon the Lord forevermore. The executioner turned his head. I noticed the lifelessness in his eyes underneath the prominent 666 marked into his forehead. Smiley, the pretender to the throne, rejoiced at his worship from the mouths of fools. The unholy trio, the Antichrist, the false prophet, and Satan, reveled in the limelight of their play-acted usurpation of God's power and authority. That is, of course, until Snap, Crackle, and Pop are cast into the lake of fire and brimstone for eternal punishment. To the right was our last chance, a booth where we could reject God and receive the mark of the beast. All the propaganda proclaimed how great it was. Peace and harmony, buy and sell, no fear of identity theft, yada, yada, yada. They painted a rosy picture of the mark, but they omitted the fine print stating, "The cost is your soul." As gruesome as the thought of having my head chopped off was, I knew in my heart that it was the only option once I was escorted up to the stage in the next hour or two. My decision is made. I will take the blade.